Are the Braves okay?
Are the Braves okay? That is a very, very loaded question. I think we have a few minutes, not a few hours, so I won't get too into detail. Um, in terms of are the Braves defeated or they're the mentality of them is has changed to where they don't feel they'll be able to improve upon this. I don't think that's the case at all. I can go through whenever I see the Braves go through instances like this over the past few years. One of the reasons why they've been so successful is because they've been so good at bouncing back when they go through lulls. And you can go back to last year, for instance, a disappointing loss, and they came back and won 12 out of 16 right after that. So they've been in this instance before, coming off a horrible loss when they really needed a big win, and then they go on a road trip that's really, really important. The big thing, though, about this instance in time, this season for the Braves, is that they've never been in this era of the team this low before. 7 games below 500 this late in the season. I think the last time they were this many games under 500 was 2016. Nor have they been in a spot where the offense is now more than a year into really underperforming. So are they to the point to where the mentality changed? Yes. The World Series is still the outcome that they want. Can they still be one of the best teams in the National League to at least get a playoff spot? Yes. But the hole that they're going to have to dig themselves out of, it's not been bigger in the Alex Anthopoulos, Brian Snicker era, and a lot of stuff has to change for the positive, and we haven't really seen indications that it will be able to change as fast as it needs to, even over the past year.
Let's rewind about 3 weeks. Okay, the Braves are starting to play better. Ever since the 0-7 start, they're playing 6-15 baseball. Oh, and Spencer Strider's coming back from his hamstring. He expects to be great. Acuna's on the horizon. And they're back. And they have continued the same MO. As a outside, not a Braves fan, just somebody that watches Braves baseball, can they win when Acuna's there? I'm not saying Acuna's making them lose, but they won the World Series in 21 without Acuna. They ended up making the playoffs without Acuna. Is there something to his aura and his in the clubhouse, or are we just using easy stats to pick and choose that maybe he's not the winning player that he needs to be for this team?
I can certainly see where that perspective would come into play because you're right. We've seen them have success without Acuna, but we've also seen the fact that in that 2021 World Series, one of the biggest reasons why we were able to win that is because it was kind of the opposite of what we're seeing now. We were seeing a lot of players play above their heads to allow for us to be able to be as good as we were. Our bullpen was one of the most dominant bullpens that we've seen in recent history for a playoff stretch. Jorge Soler, Jock Peterson, Eddie Rosario, they were above their head looking at what Eddie Rosario did. Acuna is that superstar level on a consistent basis. So I get where you're coming from, Eric, in terms of, could this team potentially, you wouldn't think about it, but could Acuna have a negative effect? I don't necessarily think that's the case, especially now, because there's so many things that Acuna does in the spot that he does it that is needed to help this team improve. You look at what he's done since he's been back. It's like he's not lost a beat. Yeah, the stolen bases are not there, but he's hitting near a level that he did during his 2023 MVP season. He gets on base. He allows for us to be able to have his presence in the lineup that teams have to position around. You've seen teams do that here recently. Other players just haven't stepped up. So I certainly see in past years where that may have been an opinion that may have had a bit more validity. Acuna is in my opinion, one of the top 5-10 offensive forces, overall players in the games. And now more than ever, especially in one singular source that can help us out in so many ways, we need him more than ever with how bad our offense is performing. So I think now more than ever, I know I keep saying that, it's just that we haven't been this slow at a point in offense under the Alex Anthopoulos, Brian Snicker era. He's our best offensive player. We need him to consistently perform where he has been for us to get where we want to be.
Do you agree with Tom Glavine? Was that rock bottom yesterday?
It's got to be. And I asked the same question on Hammer Territory the night before. Like me and Stephen Tolbert, Brad Rowland, Scott Coleman, the other great hosts of the Hammer Territory podcast, we each had danced around the conversation all week long. Is this rock bottom? Is this rock bottom? And then every single game, it seemed like that was the new rock bottom. Yes, I hope it's rock bottom. And the reason why I say that is because when you have that disappointing of a loss, when it was that much of a needed win in the fashion that we lost it against a fellow team that's disappointing as well, that's looking to get back into the playoff picture themselves. It really hasn't been any worse. And again, I go back to last year. We lost 9-8 against the Rockies in August, and we had a 6-run lead going into the eighth inning in that game. I thought it was rock bottom last year. Well, this time around, the reason why it's even worse is because we're 7 games under 500 versus being 6 games above 500 at that point. So, yes, this is the worst we've been all season long, and I hope and pray, do whatever I can to hope that this is as worse as it gets, but we bounce back quickly.
You talk about being games under 500. They are struggling this year, and we already know that. Trade deadline is looming. What are your thoughts? I mean, could it be, I dare say, maybe get rid of some guys or start all over? Do you see them getting some pieces? They're 7 games out of the wild card. It's really not that much if you look at it, but there's a bunch of teams ahead of them. What are your thoughts at the trade deadline?
It's to be determined. And I know that that's a cop-out answer, but to me, that's just the thing that stands out about this team, Todd, as you know, as a player, and I'm sure you experience at times during your career, is that, yes, as bad as the Braves are performing now, there are still elements of this team that easily can lead to a turnaround if the offense can get going. Our defense has been one of the best in the game. Our starting pitching has been one of the best since May 1st. Our bullpen is a mess right now, and hopefully some changes that have recently been made can improve it. But if our offense gets going, we can put the needed 2 to 3 week stretch of winning at the level that we need to win to really turn the conversation around. But to answer your question, if we continue on the path that we are, the thing that I'll say is this, is that if we go a month or so, especially through some of the teams that we're playing through June, and we remain 7 to 10 games under 500, it probably means that this season isn't going to work out the way that we want to. I don't think that has that much impact on the future. I still think that World Series is still reasonable outcomes for years to come. So I think you could see us both buying and selling. Older players who are towards the end of their contract with the Braves, they potentially could be potential trade candidates that could make sense for other teams. But we also, if we find the right deal, could buy for the future cost control player that can make sense. So I think that in the end, the most likely scenario is you'll see us both buy and potentially sell if we remain where we are. But if we do get that surge that we're desperately looking for, we'll certainly be buyers.
All right, 2 guys. I need you to pick one. Sorry, not Acuna. Albies and Michael Harris.
Yeah.
Which of these guys, when you're watching them on a day-to-day basis, seems the closest to be getting out of it? Because if one of them or both of them don't get out of it, it could really signify that trade deadline need for something different.
I think that's a great assessment, because when you look at, besides our main guys, everybody points to Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Ronald Acuna Jr., it's those second tier of offensive guys who really need to step up to once again propel us to being one of the best offenses in the league. And those 2 guys, you hit the nail on the head. If there's one guy that I could see it coming out of it potentially, that would be Ozzie Albies. Coming into, I believe it was yesterday, Ozzie had produced 7 walks over his past 10 games. First time he'd done that since September of 2023. You're seeing him start to have better overall plate approach, better performances at the plate. He's got a couple of clutch hits. He's also been able to hit, with more power. I think offensively, Ozzie Albies is starting to find his groove a bit more. Now, what I will say is, I think, though, while it's good to see him working it into a groove a bit more, I think he's closer to getting back to his normal production. It's more important, in my opinion, for Michael Harris to do that, because I think the power potential is higher with Harris. The on base, or when he's on base, I think that Michael Harris, it's much more of a threat. And just in general, if you could get Michael Harris performing out of that 9 spot with Acuna at that 1 spot, what made that 2003 lineup so deadly, besides the home runs, was that turn. Michael Harris and Ronald Acuna Jr. getting on base before our big bats. If Michael Harris can once again do that, that could be a really good indication that we're getting more consistent offensively. But in terms of the 2, which one is closer to getting back to their normal level of production, I think Ozzie is edging closer to being his normal level than Michael is right now.
My question to you is, there's some guys, they've got some contracts here with the Braves. We talked about this earlier, being comfortable. Guys aren't performing the way they are. Do you think players right now are a little bit too comfortable, or you think Anthopoulos did the right thing by getting all these guys signed and going out there and playing? They're just not doing their job.
I think it's the latter. I think right now, unfortunately, Todd, it's a great question, first off. But I think right now it's just the simple fact that right now it is just a perfect storm of many players with significantly high ceilings, many players who right now who should be among the best overall at their positions in all of baseball, they're just underperforming. If you look at this lineup as a whole right now, and you were to say, okay, name me the players that right now are performing at their expected level of outcomes, you could point to Ronald Acuna Jr. and you could point to Drake Baldwin. Beyond that, I don't think there's anybody else that you could point to, especially when it counts. I looked the other day and compared our heart of the lineup versus all of the heart of the lineups in baseball with runners in scoring position when it matters most if you're not hitting home runs for you to succeed. And the Braves were bottom 3 to bottom 4 in every important category, WRC plus, slugging, ISO, what have you. They just are not producing when it matters most. So you see it in the lineup. I think the clubhouse dynamic remains a positive. I think these players more than anyone know how it's important to get going. And I think they're more disappointed than anyone that they're not getting going. So I could certainly see the idea that maybe they're a bit comfortable since they've got, so many, they're taken care of long-term and all that different stuff. But what makes this team so good when they're good is that you got a lot of passionate players who really know the importance of playing together as a team. That's what allowed for them to win the 2021 World Series. They know they're capable of doing that again. It's just figuring out how to consistently get back to the level that will allow for that to be a realistic outcome.
In the ninth inning yesterday, when Matt Tuiasosopo was on the mound and he gave up. Oh, wait, no. They already fired Matt Tuiasosopo. How bad was he? Because he became a scapegoat. But you watch the games every night. Was he really that bad that you're like, I knew that was coming. I totally knew that he was going to be the reason. Now we're going to turn it around.
Yeah, I think it's the significance of the change from Matt Tuiasosopo to Freddie Gonzalez. It shouldn't garner a strong reaction. I think it was just simply a point that, listen, when it comes to the Braves team, it's pretty clear that with the investments that they made that we just talked about, the expected identity of this team is supposed to be the offense. Right now, that's the point that's struggling. So the Braves kind of just looked at an assessment of every factor that could be impacting the offense, and there has been multiple occurrences. We talked about it a few weeks ago, me and Stephen Tolbert on the Hammer Territory podcast. It's just that it seems like Matt Tuiasosopo did not have the best awareness when it came to identifying opportunities where if he made a certain decision, it would put the odds in the Braves' favor to be able to score runs. And those type of instances had built up over time. So I do think that it was important to get someone there with experience who had familiarity with the organization. That's why they went with Freddie Gonzalez. So in terms of an overall impact on like getting the offense back on track, it's going to have, it's not that big of a change. But I do think that it is a needed change because right now the Braves need to improve any way that they can. And if it includes getting more experience that can put them in better positions to win over time, I think that it was a needed move to be made. So I applauded the move, but in the end, it's a minor move more than anything that's going to be a significant reason whether or not we get back on track.
Maybe some people forgot they got rid of their offensive hitting coach, Kevin Seitzer, in the offseason. Now the offense is struggling. Do they regret that? Do they regret getting rid of Sal Fasano? Because now Kevin Seitzer's out in Seattle where they never hit. And, oh, wait, Seattle Mariners can hit now.
Yeah. I don't think that they regret really getting, it being Kevin Seitzer, coming out of the organization. I know he's in Seattle now. The thing I'll say to this is that the thing that needs to really be made, and this is why it is concerning, is that the offensive concerns go back to last April. You could pinpoint April 28th, 29th of last year, 2024. We'll basically say May 1st. Before May 1st, the Braves offense was at historical times in 2023, got off to a really good start in 2024, and then they just went down, fell off a cliff on May 1st. And a lot of that happened under Kevin Seitzer's tutelage. We saw many players underperforming. We saw the struggles when they're not hitting homers of runners in scoring position. So I think more than anything, what has happened now that the struggles of much of 2024 carrying over to 2025, it's not necessarily that, hey, a change in the hitting coach, we failed in that aspect because I think that a new voice was needed. It's just that once again, these players are going through an extended extended period of time where they're not performing to the level that they would have expected to. That either means that we need to lower the overall expectations of what their ceilings are because they're not making the needed adjustments, or we overall need to make a complete haul of the coaching staff. Not saying that needs to happen now, but there may just need to be a complete organizational refocus of how the offense goes about doing things so that these players can once again consistently be able to perform at the high levels they're expected to and should be expected to perform.
Shawn, great info, great energy. Thanks for joining us. Maybe, we listen to Hammer Territory in a few weeks and all has settled, or maybe even in August, like in 2021, where they're 500-ish, and then all of a sudden they made some trades and they're a different team and they win the World Series. But we'll see. Good talking to you, man.
One last thing, I'm going to go ahead on record and say it right now. The Braves will make the playoffs. I have faith that they're going to make the surge that they need to. I think this offense is going to bounce back. The Braves will be in the playoffs for the 8th straight year. Todd, I see you waving your hand.
Come on now.
I'm going to say it. Hey, one last thing I'll end with. The last team that was performing at the level that the Braves were or worse this late into the season, 7 games under 500 at their OPS or worse, that won the World Series was the 1914 Braves. We're going to put positive vibes into the universe. So good talking with y'all. Thanks for the opportunity.
I want some of that juice you're drinking down south there, brother. We'll talk later. Thanks.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.